I'm Erin, 23, and my birthday last week revealed exactly where I stand in my family's eyes. While wrapping up a client pitch at a local cafe, my phone lit up with a message from Mom. Sold your laptop. Your sister needs to pay off debt. The next line hit harder. Be grateful we house you. Cover her balance $697 by Friday, I fired back. No way, her instant reply. Then pack up. You're done here. That moment shattered the illusion. I grabbed my keys and walked out without another word. What unfolded after that flipped my world upside down. Living back home after college wasn't ideal, but with freelance marketing gigs building and loans to tackle, it seemed practical. I paid $500 rent monthly, handled yard work along the mountain trails near our place, and shuttled my sister around when needed. My efforts went unnoticed. Hers got praised. The pattern stretched back years. My straight A's earned a pat on the back. Her average grades sparked family outings. Parents always claimed she needed extra support. Being more fragile, I'd push through, saving for independence, turning my room into a makeshift office. That laptop, bought after months of scraping by, held my client files, designs, everything tying to my future. It wasn't just hardware. It symbolized escape. Now, gone in a flash to bail out my sister's reckless spending. The sting cut deep, but it sparked something fierce inside me. Before I dive deeper, hit like if you've ever felt sidelined in your own family, and subscribe for more raw stories like this. The morning of my 23rd birthday started like any other. I woke at 6:30, earlier than the rest of the house, and headed downstairs to brew coffee in our kitchen overlooking the mountain trails. The air carried that crisp Utah chill seeping through the windows as I poured into my mug. My mother sat at the table sorting mail, barely glancing up, while my father reviewed emails on his phone. "Morning," I said, grabbing a piece of fruit. They mumbled responses without looking my way or mentioning the day. Disappointment flickered but faded. Quickly, experience had tempered my hopes. My sister was still asleep upstairs, her door closed as usual during breaks. I packed my bag and headed out, calling a quick goodbye that echoed unanswered through the quiet home. At the community center cafe in Salt Lake City, I settled in with better Wi-Fi and fewer distractions. The space buzzed with locals chatting over lattes, a far cry from the tension at home. I dove into a client project, finalizing a social media campaign for a local boutique. Progress felt steady, my custom laptop handling the graphics software smoothly. Around midday, I stepped out for a sandwich break next door. That's when my phone buzzed with Mom's name on the screen. For a split second, I thought it might be a belated wish. Instead, the words hit like a punch. Sold your laptop. Your sister needs to pay off debt. Be grateful we house you. Cover her balance $697 by Friday. I froze, staring at the screen as confusion turned to nausea. The laptop I'd saved for 8 months, $2,200 of my earnings, gone without a word. It held my portfolio, ongoing designs, client contracts, some backed up online, but recent files exposed. More than equipment, it represented my path out. My independence from the family dynamic that always put me last. Hands shaking, I tried calling her. Voicemail. Then my father straight to ignore. Texts flew. "That's my property. I need it for work." Her reply came sharp. "Then leave. You're on your own." Abandoning my order, I rushed to my car, pulse racing through the 15-minute drive back. Mountains blurred past as panic-built project deadlines loomed. A big pitch next week relying on that machine. Bursting through the front door, I found my mother arranging decor in the living room as if nothing had shifted. My father, Jeremy, lounged in his chair watching news. "Where's my laptop?" I demanded, voice tight. Mom turned calmly. "Sold it to Corey from your father's office. Shannon's debt spiked this month. She needed help clearing it." Her words landed heavy, but the casual tone ignited fury inside me. Corey, my father's coworker, now held my future in his hands. Mom's explanation continued. Soft yet unyielding finances are tight, and family steps up. Shannon emerged from upstairs then, fiddling with a new accessory that screamed recent purchase. She glanced my way briefly. "Oh, hey, Erin." The sight fueled my resolve. I confronted them, explaining the laptop's value to my freelance business, how I'd paid rent faithfully, fixed leaks in the bathroom twice this year, maintained the yard trails weekly. Dad finally spoke, his tone dismissive. "You live here, contribute more. Shannon needs stability." Her education and choices matter, I countered, reminding them of my own loans I'd handled alone. My honors degree earned while working part-time. But Mom waved it off. Your path is different. She's sensitive. The argument escalated as I refused the debt payment, my voice steady despite the storm within. Dad stood, face hardening, pulling out his phone to text something that made mine buzz again. Leave if you won't help. In that instant, clarity pierced through years of overlooked efforts. No amount of giving would equalize things. I'd always be the reliable one, the bank for their priorities. Shannon muttered something about it being just a computer, suggesting I use the old family desktop that couldn't run basic apps, let alone marketing tools. Dad knew this. He'd seen my setup. The betrayal stung deeper, realizing they'd rifled through my room to take it. Mom's expression shifted to frustration as I pressed for details, her hand rising suddenly in a slap that echoed sharp against my cheek. That's your responsibility. The sting burned, but it crystallized my decision. I wouldn't cave. Gathering essentials quietly amid their stares, I felt a strange calm settle. This pattern ended now. As evening approached, I loaded my car with clothes, documents, an external drive of old backups. No dinner confrontation, just silence as I placed a note on the counter, taken only what's mine. Expect laptop return or $2,200 in 30 days. Communication limited to this. Then I drove off into the twilight, heart pounding yet liberated, heading toward uncertainty but away from the weight that had held me back. The drive through Salt Lake's winding roads gave space for thoughts to race. How had it come to this? Years of subtle favoritism, Shannon's larger room for her hobbies, celebratory trips for her milestones while mine passed forgotten. My academic wins got nods, her minor achievements warranted praise. Parents justified it as her needing more, but it eroded my place. Freelancing had been my outlet, building campaigns from scratch, networking relentlessly. 2 years in, clients grew, savings neared my move-out goal. That laptop enabled it all, high spec for edits, essential software, sold for Shannon's debt from impulsive buys, credit cards maxed on trends she chased. Arriving at Travis's apartment felt like a lifeline. He'd texted earlier, happy birthday, drinks tonight. Now, it shifted to crisis mode. As I unpacked sparse belongings, exhaustion hit, but determination flickered stronger. Tomorrow would bring rebuilding, but tonight marked the break I'd needed. The family home faded in my rear view, a chapter closing without regret. By dawn the next day, my phone erupted with notifications. Mom's calls came first, one after another, each ignored as I gripped the wheel tighter on the drive to Travis's place. Voicemails piled up, her voice shifting from anger to feigned concern, demanding I return and fulfill my duty. Texts followed from Aunt Kelsey, sharp and accusatory, labeling me selfish for abandoning family in need. The pressure mounted, a coordinated wave from extended relatives echoing the same narrative I'd endured for years. Erin, the unreliable one, always putting herself first. Yet amid the barrage, a quiet resolve grew. This wasn't reconciliation, but confirmation of the break I needed. Pulling into Travis's driveway in the quiet town outskirts, relief washed over me as he opened the door, concern etched on his face from my late-night message. I stepped inside his modest apartment, bags in hand, and collapsed onto the couch. The space felt welcoming, a stark contrast to the tension I'd left behind. Travis listened intently as I recounted the events, the forgotten birthday, Mom's text about the sale, the confrontation that ended with her hand across my face, and my silent exit. His expression darkened with each detail, shifting from surprise to outrage at the betrayal. That's beyond messed up, he said simply, offering a beer in the spare room without hesitation. Gratitude swelled. Here was support without strings, a reminder that connections beyond blood existed. With the immediate shelter secured, urgency turned to my work. 3 major client deadlines loomed, each reliant on files now lost with the laptop. Travis handed over his personal device, adequate for basics but strained under professional demands. I logged into email first, crafting messages to explain the sudden technical issue without revealing family chaos. Requests for short extensions went out, polite yet firm, emphasizing my commitment despite the setback. Responses trickled in, some understanding, others pressing for updates. Tension knotted in my stomach, aware that reputation hung in the balance. Shifting to recovery, I accessed cloud storage, heart sinking at the gaps. Older projects sat safe, but recent campaigns for a tech startup and a restaurant rebrand remained vulnerable. Partial drafts scattered across incomplete uploads. Travis suggested the public library nearby, but time pressed. I prioritized what I could salvage here. Navigating folders brought fragments back, wireframes, color palettes, initial mocks, but the loss stung. Hours of refinement evaporated, determination pushed me forward, recreating elements from memory while noting what needed full rebuilds. The process dragged, frustration building as the borrowed machine lagged on rendering previews. Amid the scramble, a nagging worry prompted a deeper check. With Travis's encouragement, I pulled up my bank app to secure accounts, removing family as contacts. Then came the credit report, a routine I'd skipped too long. Logging in revealed the Shaka card in my name, balance at $1,200, billing to our home address, purchases listed items clearly for Shannon designer clothes from online sites, restaurant tabs, subscription services she'd mentioned casually. The realization hit like a wave, premeditated abuse. Not just the laptop, but ongoing theft of my identity. Betrayal deepened, mixing anger with a cold clarity. This wasn't oversight, but deliberate exploitation. Reporting it felt mechanical yet empowering. I contacted the issuer, explaining the fraud without naming family directly, though suspicion pointed clear. The representative walked me through freezing the account, disputing charges, and alerting bureau's steps that would take weeks but offered protection. Inner turmoil churned. How long had this gone on? Flashes of past loans resurfaced. Money I'd given for home repairs never repaid, now framed as part of a larger pattern. Travis nodded as I shared the discovery, labeling it outright theft and urging legal steps if needed. His straightforward advice grounded me, shifting focus from victimhood to action. As afternoon faded, practicalities demanded attention. I emailed remaining clients, outlining adjusted timelines while assuring quality. One boutique owner responded sympathetically, granting leeway. Another pushed back, heightening stress. Cloud checks continued, recovering enough to patch urgent deliverables. But gaps loomed large for the pitch. Exhaustion crept in, yet a spark of liberation persisted. This crisis forced independence I'd delayed too long. Evening brought a makeshift celebration Travis insisted on, ordering pizza and gathering a couple friends for my overlooked day. Their genuine toasts contrasted sharply with family silence, highlighting what true care meant as laughter filled the room. My phone quieted briefly, but the weight of discovery lingered. Sleep came fitful on the pullout, mind racing through next steps, apartment hunts, equipment replacement, full separation from the ties that had drained me. The following morning shifted gears to resources. Travis mentioned the community center's tech lab, but I opted for immediate fixes here. Diving deeper into backups revealed more salvageable assets, email threads with feedback, exported PDFs of concepts. Piecing them together consumed hours, a tedious rebuild that tested patience but built confidence. Each restored file felt like reclaiming control. Countering the violation, financial scrutiny extended beyond the card. Reviewing statements showed inconsistencies, rent transfers I'd made monthly, yet household complaints about costs persisted. Suspicion grew that my contributions funded Shannon's habits, not family needs. The fraud card's history confirmed it. Dates aligned with her boasts about new outfits or outings. Inner resolve hardened. This wasn't isolated, but systemic. A dynamic I'd enabled too long by staying silent. Travis's support proved invaluable, brainstorming alternatives like library access for heavier tasks. His apartment, though cramped, offered stability I'd lacked at home. As days blurred into the week ahead, the initial panic eased into structured recovery. Client communication stabilized, extensions secured where possible. The credit dispute progressed, bureau alerts in place to prevent further damage. Reflecting in quiet moments, the events replayed without the raw edge. Mom's slap, a turning point. The calls, a desperate grasp at control. Aunt Kelsey's messages, laced with guilt, faded in impact. Focus sharpened on forward momentum, building a network beyond blood. This upheaval, painful as it was, carved space for growth I'd never claimed. Over the next week, I focused on piecing my life back together. Travis's cramped apartment offered refuge, but I needed more than a couch to rebuild. The community center in Salt Lake City became my starting point, its quiet hum a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left. Navigating the library's tech lab, I met Lindsay, a volunteer with a sharp eye for tech and an easy smile. She noticed my frantic setup external drive plugged into an outdated computer and offered help without prying. Her expertise in data recovery sparked hope. She guided me through accessing deeper cloud backups, pulling fragments of lost campaign drafts. Lindsay's calm efficiency steadied my nerves, her suggestions saving hours of trial and error. When I mentioned needing a stable place to work, she pointed me toward Megan, her roommate with a spare bedroom nearby. Visiting Megan's place felt like stepping into possibility. The apartment, tucked near a mountain trail, had worn but clean furnishings and a small room with enough light for a desk. Megan, a laid-back audio tech, welcomed me with a quick tour, her casual warmth easing my guarded edges. I moved in that evening, hauling my sparse belongings, clothes, documents, a few keepsakes into the space. Setting up a makeshift office with a borrowed monitor from Travis felt grounding. Each cable connected rebuilt a sense of control. The room's window overlooked the trail's pines, a quiet reminder of the independence I was chasing. Work demanded immediate attention. Deadlines loomed tighter with each passing day, and the borrowed laptop struggled with rendering needs. Lindsay's library tip led me to a co-working space near the trails, a modern hub for creatives called Mountain Works. There, I met Brianna, a senior marketer overseeing the shared tech stations. Her sharp insight and coffee-fueled energy cut through my hesitation. Noticing my intense focus on a client mock-up, she struck up a conversation during a break. I shared broad strokes lost equipment, tight deadlines without diving into family mess. Brianna's frown softened into respect. "You're handling a lot and still delivering." She offered a spare desk at her agency, complete with an older but functional iMac, free until I stabilized. The agency's environment shifted everything. Surrounded by focused professionals, I dove into reconstructing the startup campaign, piecing together salvaged files with new edits. The iMac handled software adequately, a lifeline compared to Travis's lagging device. Brianna checked in occasionally, offering tips on streamlining workflows, her mentorship unexpected but invaluable. A last-minute project for a local brewery came through her, a tight 48-hour turnaround for a rebrand presentation. The pressure was immense, but the opportunity felt like a test I couldn't fail. Late nights blurred, fueled by coffee and determination, as I rebuilt assets from scratch, leaning on Lindsay's recovery tricks to fill gaps. Completing the brewery project sparked a shift. The client's approval came with a $750 payment, my first direct deposit into a new account I'd opened. Far from family access, the act of separating finances felt like severing a tether, my earnings now mine alone. To stretch funds, I listed unused items online: old books, a rarely worn jacket, sports gear collecting dust. Each sale, small as it was, chipped away at the laptop fund. Now a priority. Savings sat at $8,500, enough for rent and a deposit, but thin for equipment replacement. Careful budgeting became my mantra, groceries planned to the dollar. No splurges, every expense weighed. Lindsay's help extended beyond tech. During a library coffee break, she introduced me to local resources, affordable internet plans, discounted software licenses for freelancers. Her IT background shone, suggesting open-source tools to bridge gaps until I could afford premium ones. Megan, meanwhile, kept the apartment a calm anchor, her night shifts leaving quiet days for work. Brianna's agency desk became a daily haven, where I tackled smaller client tasks: a logo tweak, a social media ad, each building confidence. The brewery client sent a follow-up request, hinting at a monthly retainer. That email, landing late one evening, sparked a rare moment of pride. My hustle was paying off. Financial stability crept closer, but challenges persisted. Apartment hunting revealed high rents, even in Salt Lake's quieter corners. Options split between overpriced complexes or sketchy units I couldn't trust. Megan's place worked for now, but its small space pushed me to plan long-term. Car maintenance loomed, new tires needed soon, another dent in savings. Yet each step forward, from project completions to small sales, reinforced a truth: I could navigate this without family. Their calls had slowed, replaced by sporadic texts from Aunt Kelsey, still pushing guilt but losing impact. Brianna's mentorship grew informal but steady. Over coffee at Mountain Works, she shared stories of her own early struggles, normalizing the grind. Her agency's team offered occasional feedback, pointing out shortcuts in my designs that saved time without cutting quality. The brewery project's success led to a referral for a boutique hotel, A $500 contract for a quick brochure, that payment, combined with online sales, pushed my laptop fund to $900, still far from $2,200. But progress. Nights at Megan's brought reflection, unpacking sentimental items, a high school sketchbook, a worn novel stirred memories of overlooked achievements. Family had dismissed my marketing degree as impractical, yet here I stood, building a career from it. The contrast with Shannon's coddled path sharpened my resolve. Her debts weren't my burden. Lindsay's library sessions became regular, her tech tips streamlining my workflow. One evening, she showed me how to automate backups across multiple clouds, ensuring no future loss. That small act felt like armor against past violations. As the week closed, a call from the brewery confirmed the retainer, $2,000 monthly for 10 hours of work. The stability it promised, covering rent, utilities, basics, felt like a turning point. I celebrated quietly with Megan and Travis over takeout, their support a stark contrast to family silence. No calls came from mom or dad, no birthday apologies, just quiet. That absence, once painful, now fueled clarity. I was building a life on my terms, surrounded by those who valued me. 2 months later, my phone began lighting up again. The silence from family had held briefly, a deceptive calm that shattered with mom's first call. Her voicemails carried a new tone, pleading, edged with desperation, urging me to talk about urgent matters. Dad's messages followed, clipped and insistent, demanding I respond for the family's sake. Shannon's texts came sharpest, accusing me of abandoning them, blaming my departure for their mounting stress. Each notification stirred a mix of dread and resolve. Their sudden need wasn't concern for me but a signal of deeper trouble. Aunt Kelsey, my mother's sister, joined the fray with pointed texts, her words dripping with disappointment. I was selfish, ungrateful, tearing the family apart by refusing to help. Extended relatives echoed her, their messages piling on pressure, painting me as the outsider who'd turned her back on duty. The barrage felt orchestrated, a familiar tactic to pull me back into their orbit. Yet my new life built on hard-won stability, with Megan's apartment and Brianna's agency held firm. I muted their calls, responding only with brief assurances of my safety, keeping distance deliberate. Then Corey, Dad's longtime colleague, called unexpectedly one afternoon. His voice carried unease as he revealed the truth: Mom had been laid off from her school admin job, a casualty of budget cuts. The news landed heavily. Not for sympathy but for clarity, it explained their urgency. Financial strain was unraveling them, and they saw me as the fix. I agreed to meet, but on my terms, a neutral coffee shop at the Salt Lake City Community Center, public enough to keep things civil. Walking in, I saw them already seated, Mom, Dad, and, unexpectedly, Shannon. Their presence together felt like an ambush, but I steadied myself, posture straight from months of independence. Mom's eyes were tired, Dad's face lined with tension, Shannon fidgeting with her phone. Aunt Kelsey had pushed for this, they admitted, her calls rallying them to confront me as a unit. I sat across, bracing for what came next, determined to face the truth head-on. Mom spoke first, her voice soft but calculated, explaining their situation. The layoff left them with a meager severance, barely covering 1 month's expenses. Mortgage payments on our home near the mountain trails lagged, with notices piling up. Credit card debts racked up over years now choked them, worsened by Shannon's unchecked spending. They needed help, she said, framing it as family obligation. Dad nodded, adding that my freelance success could bridge their gap. Shannon stayed silent, her gaze darting away, but her presence screamed entitlement. The request hung heavy. They wanted thousands to stall foreclosure, assuming I'd open my wallet. Anger flared, but I kept it reined, asking pointed questions. What about the rent I'd paid $500 monthly for 2 years? Mom's confusion sparked my suspicion. She believed I'd lived rent-free. Dad's eyes dropped, avoiding the truth, pressing further. I brought up the $1,200 credit card fraud charges tied to Shannon's lifestyle. Mom's face froze, unaware of the extent, while Dad deflected, calling it a family necessity. Shannon muttered about needing things to keep up appearances, her tone defensive but unapologetic. The layers peeled back. My rent hadn't gone to bills but to cover their overspending. Shannon's debts included. The confrontation deepened as I laid out their deceptions. The loans for home repairs, never repaid. Surfaced in my memory $3,000 last year alone. Promised back but forgotten. Mom's shock grew. She'd been told Dad's bonuses covered those costs. His silence confirmed the lie. His discomfort palpable as I recounted bank transfers I'd tracked. Shannon's purchases, clothes, dining, subscriptions had drained my contributions, funneled through their mismanagement. Aunt Kelsey's texts, urging unity, now felt like manipulation to maintain their facade. Each revelation chipped away at their narrative, exposing a pattern of exploitation I'd been too buried to see. Their defense crumbled, but Dad clung to justification. Everything was for family survival, my success a resource they deserved. Mom's pleas turned tearful, invoking guilt about their looming losses. Shannon finally spoke, her voice sharp, blaming my exit for Dad's work stress, as if my absence caused their collapse. The audacity twisted something inside me, not guilt, but clarity. They'd built this crisis, not me. I countered with facts: my own loans, paid without help. My degree, earned through night shifts. My business, built despite their sabotage. Their expectation that I'd bail them out felt like a final betrayal, assuming my worth lay only in what I could give. The coffee shop's hum faded as I held my ground. I wasn't their ATM, nor their scapegoat. Mom's tears didn't sway me. They'd ignored my own struggles for years. Dad's insistence on family duty rang hollow against his hidden debts. Shannon's accusations, tying their woes to my departure, only hardened my stance. Aunt Kelsey's absence spoke volumes. She pushed from afar but wouldn't face this. I stood, stating clearly I wouldn't fund their chaos, leaving the table with a calm I hadn't known I possessed. Their stunned silence followed me out, the weight of their expectations lifting with each step into the crisp Utah air. Driving back to Megan's, I processed the encounter. Their financial hole, $28,000 in debt, mortgage arrears. No savings wasn't my burden. Years of their choices, from indulgent spending to ignoring my contributions, had led here. The confrontation stripped away any lingering doubt. I'd been a tool, not a daughter, yet the sting of their accusations lingered. Testing my resolve, checking my phone, I saw more texts from cousins, echoing Kelsey's guilt trips, but I deleted them unread. My focus turned inward, protecting the life I'd built, the stability earned through my own grit. During our second meeting at the coffee shop, the air felt heavier. Mom sat across from me, eyes red from crying, her usual composure replaced by raw desperation. Dad flanked her, his posture rigid, while Shannon slouched beside them, phone idle for once. Aunt Kelsey, who'd pushed for this gathering, joined unexpectedly, her presence amplifying the family's united front. The community center's hum faded as Mom began, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and plea. Their financial hole had deepened, $28,000 in debt, mortgage payments 3 months overdue, bank notices threatening foreclosure on our home near the mountain trails. She begged for help, framing it as my duty to save them, her words heavy with expectation. Anger simmered beneath my calm exterior, but I listened, letting her unravel their crisis. Mom's layoff had gutted their income, severance barely covering a month's basics. Credit card balances, swollen from years of overspending, now crushed them, with interest piling daily. Shannon's debts racked up on clothes, trips, and online splurges had tipped the scales, her reckless habits a constant drain. Dad stayed silent at first, his eyes fixed on the table, but Mom's pleas grew insistent, urging me to use my freelance earnings to stop the bank's threats. Shannon broke her silence, her tone sharp and accusatory, blaming my departure for Mom's job loss. My absence, she claimed, had stressed the family, costing Mom focus at work. The absurdity of her logic twisted something deep inside me, fueling resolve over guilt. I pressed for clarity, asking how they'd reached this point. Dad shifted uncomfortably, then admitted a gambling habit, small online bets. He called them, meant to ease work pressure but spiraling over years. The confession landed like a stone. It wasn't just Shannon's spending, but his own recklessness that had bled them dry. Aunt Kelsey interjected, her voice firm, defending their choices as necessary for family stability, urging me to see their side. Her words echoed the same manipulation I'd faced before, framing my refusal as betrayal. Yet their collective plea rang hollow. Each excuse dodged accountability, leaning on me to fix their mess. The weight of their expectations pressed harder, but my perspective had shifted. Months of building my own life, client retainers, a stable apartment, chosen connections had clarified my worth. I wasn't their lifeline. I laid out the reality my business, though growing, couldn't absorb $28,000. My savings, carefully rebuilt, covered my own rent, car maintenance, and a looming laptop replacement. Mom's tears intensified, her voice cracking as she spoke of losing the house, of Shannon's future at risk. Dad's jaw tightened, insisting family meant sacrifice, that my success owed them support. Shannon's glare sharpened, accusing me of selfishness for prioritizing my career over their survival. I countered with measured firmness, detailing my own burdened student loans I'd paid alone, rent siphoned into their debts, the stolen laptop that had nearly derailed my work. Their silence spoke volumes. No one disputed the facts, but no apologies came. Aunt Kelsey pushed again, suggesting I could take a loan to help, her tone implying I owed them for years under their roof. The suggestion stung, not for its audacity but for its blindness to my own struggles. I'd been invisible to them, my contributions erased to prop up their facade. Weighing my options, I considered limited aid with strict conditions, financial counseling, selling their luxury SUV, Shannon taking a part-time job. I voiced the idea, outlining a plan for transparency and accountability. They'd need to track every dollar, cut non-essentials, and commit to change. Mom recoiled, calling the terms harsh, her tears turning defensive. Dad shook his head, labeling my conditions an insult to their pride. Shannon scoffed, claiming her studies left no room for work, her entitlement unshaken. Aunt Kelsey's face hardened, accusing me of abandoning family values. Their rejection was unanimous, a wall of resistance to any path that required their effort. The refusal crystallized my decision. I wouldn't offer a blank check, nor would I bend to their demands. The tension spiked, Mom's voice rising in a final plea, Dad's eyes flashing with frustration. Shannon's accusations turned personal, labeling me cold for turning my back. Aunt Kelsey's parting words stung most, calling my stance a disgrace to our name. Yet their anger only solidified my clarity. This cycle of manipulation ended here. I stood, stating simply that I couldn't solve their crisis, my voice steady despite the storm within. Leaving the coffee shop, I felt the weight of their gazes, but no regret followed. The Utah dust settled around me, cool and grounding, as I drove back to my apartment. Back at Megan's, I sat with the encounter's aftermath. Their desperation wasn't my fault, nor my responsibility to fix. Years of their choices, Dad's bets, Shannon's spending, Mom's enabling had carved this path. My role had been to give endlessly, a role I'd now shed. Checking my phone, I saw no new messages. Their silence a shift from pressure to absence. The lack of apology, of any acknowledgement of their wrongs, sealed my resolve. I wasn't just protecting my finances but my peace, a boundary forged through pain. Reflecting alone, I traced the roots of their crisis. Dad's gambling, hidden behind his manager facade, had drained savings. Shannon's unchecked habits, fueled by their indulgence, had piled debts. Mom's layoff, though sudden, exposed their fragile foundation. No savings, only appearances. My contributions, rent, repairs, trust had been siphoned to delay this collapse. Never valued. The realization cut, but it also freed. I'd built stability without them. Through grit and chosen allies, their chaos no longer held me. After that final meeting, I severed the last ties. Returning to Megan's apartment, I blocked Mom's number, then Dad's, Shannon's, and Aunt Kelsey's. Each tap on my phone a deliberate step toward freedom. No more voicemails, no more guilt-laced texts. Silence replaced their demands. The decision carried a weight, not of regret, but of necessity. A boundary carved from years of being unseen. My life, now anchored in my own terms, demanded protection from their chaos. Weeks later, whispers reached me through distant channels. Corey, Dad's colleague, mentioned in a passing call that the family had sold our home near the mountain trails in a short sale, a last-ditch move to dodge foreclosure. The bank's notices had won, forcing them to liquidate what they'd clung to for appearances. They'd downsized to a small condo in a less desirable part of Salt Lake City, a humbling shift from their curated suburban image. Shannon, unable to cover her mounting credit card debts, had dropped out of college, her enrollment canceled when payments bounced. Relatives, once quick to judge me, now distanced themselves. Their silence a social exile for a family that had leaned on pride over honesty. The consequences unfolded as I'd expected, real, unyielding, a direct result of their choices. My own path, Meanwhile, gained steady ground. The brewery retainer, $2,000 monthly, provided a foundation, covering rent and essentials, with savings rebuilt to $10,000. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment closer to the trails, its larger space doubling as a professional office. Natural light poured through windows, framing a desk I'd bought with my earnings, a symbol of independence. My client list grew through referrals, adding a hotel chain and a local gym, each project strengthening my portfolio. To manage administrative tasks, I hired a part-time virtual assistant, a college student named Tara, whose efficiency freed me to focus on creative work. The decision, once daunting, now felt like a milestone, proof of a business no longer tethered to crisis. Stability brought new routines. Weekly dinners with Travis became a ritual, his humor a steady anchor. Lindsay and I met regularly at the community center cafe, trading tech tips and ideas over coffee. Megan's night shifts left our apartment quiet, perfect for deep work, while Brianna's mentorship evolved into a friendship, her invitations to industry meetups expanding my network. These connections, forged through mutual respect, formed a chosen family, people who celebrated my wins without keeping score, who saw me for who I was, not what I could provide. The contrast with my blood relatives was stark, their absence now a relief rather than a wound. Financial discipline sharpened. I tracked every expense: groceries, utilities, insurance, learning the cost of true independence. Quarterly tax payments, a new reality, required meticulous planning. Guided by a local accountant Lindsay recommended, my car, paid off but aging, needed maintenance, but I budgeted carefully, avoiding the overspending traps I'd seen in my family. Each dollar saved pushed my laptop fund higher, now at $1,500, inching toward a replacement. Selling more unused items, old electronics. A spare bag added small boosts, each transaction a reminder of my resourcefulness. Reflecting on the year since that fateful birthday, I saw transformation born from pain. The crisis sparked by Mom's text, sealed by their refusal to change, had forced me to claim my worth. Cutting ties wasn't revenge but survival, a refusal to carry their burdens. The family's collapse, while harsh, mirrored real consequences. Foreclosure processes in Utah often take 6 months, and unpaid debts force hard choices. Like Shannon's exit from school, their isolation, as relatives withdrew, reflected a truth. Pride and manipulation erode trust, leaving only consequences. The lesson wasn't just about them but about me. Independence, once a vague goal, became my strength. Built through late nights and relentless hustle, my chosen family, Travis, Lindsay, Megan, Brianna, offered support without expectation, a foundation stronger than blood ties. Crisis had stripped away illusions, revealing my value as inherent, not tied to what I gave others. Birthdays now marked quiet victories, celebrated with those who mattered, not demanded by obligation. On my 24th, Travis hosted a small gathering, pizza and laughter filling the room, a stark contrast to the silence of last year's pain. That night, as I looked out over the trails from my new apartment, peace settled deep. The family home, now someone else's, held no pull. Shannon's struggles, Dad's gambles, Mom's tears, they were theirs to carry. I'd learned that respect isn't owed but earned, that boundaries protect, not punish. The journey from overlooked daughter to self-reliant woman hadn't been easy, but it was mine. The worst birthday gift, a stolen laptop. A fractured family, had become the most valuable, pushing me to build a life where my worth was never in question.